everyone, Carson here, and in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing GoDaddy as a web hosting company. Now, I've reviewed a lot of web hosting companies, around 87 to date, and because I'm an influencer, I get special access to all the platforms so I can go ahead and test them and evaluate for you how good these platforms are. Also, just a reminder that if you do like my content, remember to go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with all my latest uploads. Now, if you want a very abridged version of this review, I'm just going to go ahead and let you know that GoDaddy is not in my top websites, my top web hosting sites of all time. They're actually not in my top 10, but if you do want to see my favorite hosting websites, I do have a link in the description where you can check out my review of them. With that out of the way though, let's go ahead and get into this review. Now, GoDaddy is actually a pretty decent web host. Personally, and for reasons which I'll get into later, they are not my favorite, but they are a good, well-rounded web hosting company in general. Now, GoDaddy over the years has brought the prices for their plans down quite a bit. They used to be so expensive that it wasn't really worth it even considering them as a platform, but they have brought their prices down. They've taken a turn and they've actually made their prices a lot cheaper than they initially sold them for. Now, another benefit worth mentioning of GoDaddy is that they have around 125 different applications and CMS or content management systems which you can install in one click. So if you are wanting to experiment with a lot of different systems, now I don't recommend that because usually it's good to just stick with a very popular system like WordPress, but if you are wanting to play around, that is a benefit for you. Now, GoDaddy actually averages around 99.94% uptime, which although it's not as good as some of the top companies, which can reach even like 99.99% uptime, it's still a decent uptime, and it's not something most people would complain about. It's not a major enough difference that most people who host their website on GoDaddy would notice. Unless you run all the numbers, you calculate it, and you track it, you're not going to be able to find out that their uptime is only 99.94 instead of something like 99.99. So as you can see here, I am on GoDaddy.com right now, and I'm taking a look at some of their hosting plans. They start at around $2.99 a month, which although that is not great, that is not the cheapest you can get, it's still a very good deal and definitely on the cheaper end of website hosting altogether. Now, the price does climb pretty steeply if you're looking into WordPress or WordPress e-commerce hosting, which can get up to around $6.99 or $15.99, but in general, GoDaddy does have pretty good prices for their web hosting plans. As I've said before, they used to have them very much more expensive, but they have toned down their prices a little bit, it seems, to try and compete with some of the newer, better web hosts on the market. Now, moving on to some of the cons for GoDaddy, well, their basic plans don't quite offer a lot of features you would want. For example, a lot of the top web hosts I've reviewed, all of the ones in my favorite ones, offer and throw in free SSL certificates with their hosting plans. They have really good security, backups, and website migration capabilities. GoDaddy, however, lacks pretty much all of these features with their plans. They don't offer any of that. It's just a bare bones plan, essentially. If you're gonna want an SSL, you're gonna have to pay extra and then set it up on your website, and that is a pretty big problem, especially for newer hosts. Now, another problem is that their uptime is not very consistent, and if you measure it month by month, you get to see some really interesting problems. Sometimes it can drop as low as 99.8% uptime in these periods of time. Now, at that point, if you're wanting to run a very successful website, a very successful business, it's getting into the dangerous areas of downtime. It's getting into the area where you have to consider if it's really worth it to buy from GoDaddy if their servers are going to be down that much and lose you that many potential sales. Another problem I have with GoDaddy, and this is just a more personal problem, but it is something you need to take into consideration because I don't want anyone getting cheated out of their money for buying unnecessary things, and a lot of times GoDaddy does seem to try and do that. They are pretty much infamous for upselling their products. If you're not familiar with what upselling means, essentially GoDaddy will take their basic plans and then just add prices on prices on prices and sales on sales on sales. So by the end, after starting out with a really cheap plan, you're ending up paying way more than you would ever dream of paying with a normal plan. So basically what I'm trying to say is their prices are deceptively low. Even though on the surface their prices appear to be pretty good, by the time they finished upselling you all of their products, it can look a lot worse. And finally, I just want to mention that their customer support isn't my favorite to deal with. Before I really got into web hosting and reviewing all of these sites, I actually did use GoDaddy for a period of time, and their customer support, well, let's just say I didn't quite enjoy it. I did not leave the conversation with their customer support happy that I had contacted them and happy with the results. And for me at least, that's a very important part when it comes to website hosting. If the host you're going with has great customer service, it just makes it easier to host your website in general. So yeah, overall, GoDaddy is a pretty reliable host. I do recommend them some of the time. However, as I'm sure you can tell, I would not rank GoDaddy in my top sites or anywhere near there. I'd probably put them more in the middle in terms of website hosting companies. I just don't see any specific features and qualities in which GoDaddy excels and provides to their customers. For me at least, I think they could do better in a lot of these aspects and areas, especially considering how gigantic GoDaddy is. But anyways, thank you for watching. If you do have any questions, drop them right down in the comments. And just a reminder that if you do want to check out all of my favorite web hosts, like the ones I really highly recommend, and the ones which I find the least amount of problems with, you can go ahead and head down to the description where I have a link to those reviews. Anyway, thank you for watching, till next time, and have a great day.